And you are live.
Okay, we are House Education, if I'm not mistaken, February 25th, 2025. It's having a half hour with the committee to discuss our input to the House Appropriations Committee on requests that have come before us that they are the ones who have to make the decision on, but would welcome our input. Representative Quimby has been putting together kind of a nice spreadsheet for us to walk through it again. We'll take a look at it. And maybe you can sort of update us as to the ones we've sort of checked off.
Let's see. So the first one is the State Board of Ed. We talked about that.
Well, we'll come back to it.
VSAC, I think we talked about pretty thoroughly, maybe.
Did we confirmed that they are actually asking for
3%, 3.6% increase in the base funding, which that is in line with the governor's recommend exactly.
and then the other three
The other
things sort of one time.
Yeah.
So we're all on board with VSAC.
Well,
Okay, sorry, keep going. I'm
Uh,
just trying to get my letter straight. I'm writing the letter in my head as we're going here.
all right, let's talk about VSAC. I assume nobody has any thing to raise about their 3.6% increase. And are people comfortable with Rob basically saying to them, we support these one-time programs, however, we are realistic about the availability of
Right.
state dollars for them?
the dollars. So the Vermont Teacher Forgivable Loan Program, that's new money. It was funded 2 years ago. And then not, so that's,
It's out of money.
it's out of money. So that's,
Are people okay with adding some fairly strong support for it?
support the program.
Because it has been successful.
Teacher loan
fully used,
repayment
and
is
continue to have a
huge.
Shortage.
Yes,
I'll just-
teacher loan repayment is huge.
Quickly say that I was just told by which superintendent, but a superintendent saying that not one student signed up for education programs at Keene State College this year, which is incredibly unusual.
Yeah.
Whatever we can do to support this.
Do we have somebody testify that in Massachusetts, they graduated one
Yes.
special education?
Uh,
program?
it's-
Three, I think it was, I think it was three.
This
and
is
all.
terrible. But
Oh, yes.
it's just scary for the future.
Yeah.
We had good testimony from Scott about that program, if we want to pull some details into the letter to back it up.
We have those documents and the date they were in was February 2nd. Oh, no, the one you
He
just.
came back, and
Yeah,
talked
he
about
came
like
back.
how many teachers,
Yes.
Yeah.
how many they couldn't fund.
Yeah.
Where they're going,
And.
and
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I would say for the narrative. What's useful there is that they've done some really good work with the higher ed partners now. So if it goes away,
Right.
kind of all that finally got up and going. St. Mike's, UVM, they're finally like connecting people to it.
That number matches the $4 million that the AOE is looking for their consultants.
Mhm.
All right, UVM, I assume 3%, everybody's okay with.
Yeah, and again, I can't find it in their documents, just in.
Yeah, I think they said it, whatever is covered.
And where did we land with their sort of 5-year, 1 million a year? You know,
Right, so that's our next
matching gifts.
question. Again, we're sort of lucky in that we can be supportive, understanding the reality of things.
You need to rank things though,
Yes.
if we're sort of hedging here, we have
Right.
to rank them.
Are we ready to rank yet or should we?
Well, I think, let's go through what we have ranked, because I think when we talk about the ones that we're completely okay with, they're already in the governor's budget as is. So we don't necessarily need to rank those. It's these extras that we're gonna need to do. So the Tech Hub and the Vermont Cancer Center, I'd almost defer to the Vermont Cancer Center to the Healthcare Committee to weigh in on, or somebody else.
That's a good point.
And same with the tech hub, that's really a commerce committee thing, that's about.
Even though it's-
Global boundaries.
Yeah.
So maybe we would just say, while generally supportive, we would defer to the recommendation by other committees of jurisdiction.
Is the Vermont Cancer Center to treat cancer or to research
I think
cancer?
research.
Okay.
Research.
State colleges, all right,
The only thing that's really different is the last item, that maintenance piece is significantly, the governor's recommend, is significantly different than the ask. The others are pretty close. In fact, actually, they're asking for less than the governor would recommend on one, and
I would just say that the state colleges asked, other than
the
that part,
maintenance.
is in line with the
Yeah.
state's commitment to its transformation, and we strongly support it. Then we can pretty much,
And some of the maintenance projects were in the governor's recommend as well, for different amounts,
Yeah.
but the.
I would
I think was,
allow us an out on this one is generally infrastructure needs of the state college system are recommended or not recommended by the institutions committee.
Right.
That's right.
yeah,
I would say we defer to them. on
so
that.
again, supportive and deferred to jurisdiction.
The 4 million from AOE, we'll hear from them tomorrow.
Then we had some smaller,
Yeah, the Heart Association grant for schools to implement cardiac emergency response. We don't even really have the testimony yet. We have a bill.
they did just write in
They wrote to
response,
us a
because they.
couple of
They did. We also have a bill talking about cardiac
Yes.
teams. I would say that for this one, it should be tied to a bill. And the bill has not been produced.
Did it come out today?
Yeah, so that we've had it for a while.
It's
And we have,
2/4.
they're scheduled to come in this week.
Okay, H240.
So let's not speak to that. If
Okay.
we decide to move ahead with the bill, the money will be attached and then that will go through its own process.
Okay.
Governor's Institute is in line with the usual ask.
Well,
There's
they're
an
asking for
increase.
more than the.
They want
governor's.
3%.
Percent above the.
The governor's recommend was the exact
Oh,
same
no.
base funding as last year, and they want 3%.
The Governor's Institute has been kind of chronically underfunded year after year. To me, again, 3% seems in line with everything else.
We did give them a bump in the last.
To the
Like we-
base. or with it.
Yeah, I think we increased their base, right? For folks who've been here. I remember they made a very compelling case that they really hadn't been given an increase in a long time, and I'm pretty sure we did give them an
Or we
increase.
may have recommended, but didn't actually give it to them.
I think so.
You just made me
So,
think.
you're
A
saying-
question I have, because I haven't been on this committee for the last few years, but you guys obviously have been doing this. How much work does the Governor's Institute do to reach students who come from marginalized backgrounds and that sort of thing? Have
There,
we had updates on
Yeah.
that?
but, like material we've gotten says that a large percentage of the students
I think it's very affordable.
scholarship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I could tell us that.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just curious what you
I know.
folks have. heard
I
about
suspect they
that.
could probably provide some significant testimony saying that they work very hard to reach all populations and provide scholarships.
Yeah, I think they did, because I remember thinking a long time ago when I was in high school, the outreach wasn't like robust in the terms, like it never really crossed my radar, but I think they did come in and say that they have been targeting certain, school communities that have not historically participated. But I can't
Because that's
remember
Really important.
beyond that.
As a parent who just went through this about a year or so ago with my daughter going through the school counselor set up a parent evening. They talked a lot about the Governor's
Oh,
Institute.
great.
They talked about the scholarships that are available.
Yeah.
by the
Nice.
Governor's Institute. So they definitely, I don't know if our school just did that on their own, but there's definitely outreach to the school.
So I guess the reason, and I think they've always had,
Would you like them to provide some testimony?
no, I don't, but because I'm a little outside of the circle right at the moment,
Yeah.
after the last 4 years of not doing this, but what I guess if we were, I'm not asking to do it for this year, but I do think in the future, we should be asking for how many students are taking advantage of those scholarships. I do think their goal has always been to do that, and I just really want to make sure that students who may not even be on a path to college would be right for this.
Yeah.
Annie, can you post, I'm just sending you the documents.
Thank you.
sent
I didn't mean to hold us up. I
us.
just.
You just post those documents. So everybody can access them on our committee page. Is there a request and
So I'm hearing support for a 3%, if everybody's getting 3% anyway. Farm to school,
Yes, for
I
example.
don't even know what any of those things mean.
So there were two programs, 500,000 each.
Oh, got
It's
it.
a farm to school early childhood
Yeah.
and local, yeah.
Yeah.
mobile food initiative?
And there's 500,000 each in the last year, and they've asked for 500,000 each again.
Yeah.
Is that level funding? Is that what they got?
We haven't
That's
had,
level.
we haven't had any presentation of that, and I would again defer.
They
to-
came in,
They came in, oh, they came in.
farm
briefly.
school day.
Yeah.
Kids
Yeah,
came in
actually-
and
Oh, the
taught.
Oh, the
kids,
kids are
right.
cool.
the
Oh, they
kids,
haven't
yeah.
been in here for that.
They'll get more.
I
They'll
actually
ask for
don't
more.
think you were here.
Yeah.
Might not have been, but they didn't
We're at
ask.
meetings.
Again, I'm sure this is really something that
Ag.
should be weighing in on. Okay, Advance Vermont. This is a big one. It's a big change. This is one we need to talk about.
It's a big change from.
They're asking for base funding. They have been
Oh,
coming
that
up
change,
year
yeah.
after year.
Yep.
And their funding has been kind of all over the place as well.
Yeah,
Well, it's been 350 for 2 years and then down to
It
150 and then it back up to
Yeah.
350.
Anybody want to talk about this?
I think it's a useful tool that has a lot of potential.
I do too.
And can it,
I know it's being supported by the Congress.
can it achieve its potential without like being able to count on funding each year?
I think what we heard was the intention to grow this year, and that's one of the reasons why.
Yeah.
The feedback.
So if we word something that says, we support the efforts of Advance Vermont. And we support, and we believe in the potential of this and agree that it needs sustained funding in order to prove itself. What do people feel about that? And really appropriations can decide whether that's base funding or 5-year funding or
True.
3-year funding.
Right.
That's,
That
sounds about
I
right.
agree with that, so I think
Sound okay?
appropriations is a much better place to tell her to decide if it's going to be bid or service.
Were you okay with that?
Yep.
All right, Brown, you're on.
So you all have heard me say various things in support of the Hunger Free Vermont request for 182,000 this year. So, and Hunger Free did come in briefly, and we all received in our emails sort of a 1 to 2 pager explaining what this request is. So essentially, this is to support small family home childcare providers in accessing federal funding to do meals and snacks for the kids that they're serving. So this is as federal programs can be a little bit complicated, in order to draw down the federal funding, there needs to be a fiscal agent. And so across the state of Vermont, I think there are currently 3 fiscal agents. But the state has actually lost a couple of sponsoring fiscal agents due to the fact that the current federal reimbursement doesn't appropriately cover their costs to help with administering the program. They have to do a couple of site visits every year. So essentially what's currently there to keep the program running isn't enough to sustain it. And it's definitely not enough to grow it, which is ideally what we would want.
So it's pretty important.
Yeah, well, I think, I think talking to folks about drawing down federal funding is a pretty popular topic of conversation. So it checks that box, which I think is great. And I actually sent Honor from Hunger Free Vermont a question at the end of last week because I suspected, sort of based on the part of Vermont where I grew up, that family home childcare providers are serving a lot of communities where there aren't a lot of other childcare options. So the rural pockets of the state, like Rutland County, and my sense, which she confirmed, is they serve more sort of low and middle income families than larger childcare centers and other settings, you know, maybe in more population dense areas of the state. So personally, I'm very supportive of this.
Do we know that AOE is or isn't in favor of taking on this, the money aside, they now have to become the fiscal agent? Have you heard from them at all?
Yes, my understanding is that that AOE is supportive of this. Amy, you're like.
Oh, I'm trying to see over there, yeah.
And our understanding is that Rosie Kruger, who runs the child nutrition program, is supporting this request and administer.
Okay.
And I believe she's planning to send a memo to House Appropriations.
Oh, great.
But this is sort of in our bailiwick, mainly because it's just an added responsibility for AOE. I kind of
Yeah.
feel like it's
Me too.
sort of farm schoolish and that, you know, it's really
Resiliency.
a food resiliency kind of thing. I would offer our support, I guess, period. That it is our understanding that, we could say that it's our understanding that AOE is ready to administer the program and that it helps draw down federal dollars.
There's a staff person. I noticed, I found in our directory, there's a staff person at the agency apparently in charge of this. So
I'm sure Rosie can.
Yeah. someone in addition to Rosie.
It's Rosie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the big one, which is the State Board of Education. So I personally, they just pitched to appropriations while caucuses were going on. So they have had they're both the chair and the vice chair from the State Board of Education were in there. So they've got the pitch. I personally am strongly in support of this because I've been here for 9 years, and for 9 years, we've been trying to get everything sort of done that's on the docket for the State Board of Education, so that they can sort of start anew, figure out who really should be doing what. They seem to have been held up a lot by the fact that they've got a lot on their plate, they're busy with that. I would also just say that I do feel they're underpaid for the amount of time they put in. It's not just the meetings. They spend probably significantly even more time in committee work, especially when they're reviewing independent school applications, all the other things that they have to do, doing rulemaking. It would just be nice to sort of clean it all out, clean out the backlog as they want it, and kind of treat them as the board that they are set up to be, with fair resources, not just for the members, but for hiring the staff that they need. So that's my pitch. I'm in support of it. This is a open discussion. Yes, please.
So I guess this is more of a question and more of a recall on from my brain. But I was just reminded that in the past, before the agency became an agency and was a department, and there was a commissioner, the funding for the state board, something like this, updating all the rules and all that, would have just come through the AOE budget.
Well, I would
And
say
we were told
not just
that,
the money, but the staff was available.
right,
Yeah.
and we were told pretty clearly, remind me if I'm wrong, but my recollection is that recently they were told again, or maybe it was a repeat, that no attorney was available from the AOE. And all of this sort of feels frustrating, yes, to me, about the governance of all of this. Just,
I mean,
it's a
regardless-
comment and
Yeah,
a
I
thought.
appreciate that. Yeah, so what they told us was that, or as you pointed out, that it used to be,
Mhm.
they were in charge of the department, therefore they had access to all the department resources. They are not any longer, and those resources are frankly at the whim, by resources, I mean lawyers, all that, are at the whim of the secretary. Yes, Beth?
So in support of cleaning up the rules, as they said, not just because it's been 9 questions that were brought up by them that changes at the federal level may require states to really have their rule ducks in a row, even more so, and so getting that process done.
I would, the other thing is they also would like to go through everything and
Yes,
pull out all
what they
the
don't
junk.
Pull out what you don't
I-
need, put in what's missing, delineate who's responsible for what.
Just so you know, I was not saying opposing this. I
Oh,
just
no, you
wanted to
definitely
make
not
it very
wrong, yeah.
clear that this was, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
are we all comfortable with that?
I think we obviously have some decision points. Right now, I think that they definitely have been underfunded and especially for their pay for the meetings and
Yeah.
absolutely, we need the rules to be modernized.
Now, the pay for the meetings, whether it's 5,000 or 3,000, whatever, we'll leave that up to appropriations. All right, this is great.
We
Rob,
need
you-
to rank them.
Okay, all right.
To do that.
So you've heard, the state board money for me is very important, just given the history. And if we're gonna move, we can't really move forward until we clean up what we've done.
State boards up there.
For me,
I would-
don't know if anybody else feels that way.
No, I do.
I would agree
do,
with that.
I do, and yeah, I think that I've been convinced their role is pretty important.
Yeah.
In the things that happen here, so let's give them some means.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I think statewide capacity is extremely important, has been underfunded and realized for years. And I'll preface that it may seem hypocritical then to say that I have huge concerns about the 4 million education transformation. If it was 4 million for AOE full-time staff and, Vermont jobs and like more embedding in the field, I would be strongly supporting it. But I think we have to be investing in long-term sustained capacity. So the State Board of Ed is, they're here for the long term. And jumping ahead, I know, because we're gonna get some testimony tomorrow, but this is, I suspect, gonna be maybe a challenging discussion for us. I'm very opposed to $4 million in one-time funds that's likely consultants when we really need ongoing capacity leadership being grounded in the Vermont context of the AOE. That was being used differently, I'd be highly supportive of it.
Yeah, and we'll hold the, you're not gonna be here. Thank you, Diane. So we have more on the AOE to come, but I'll put you down as strongly in favor of the 4 million if it were being used for sustained support to the field embedded in the AOE, but otherwise highly skeptical.
Yes.
All right, but you're jumping around on this here.
Then what's number 2?
Vermont State College system. I think they've really made quite a significant turnaround in the last few years in the right direction. Want to support the continue, again, the dollar amounts will be up to appropriations, but
Can we say we strongly support all of the
Progress
all of the
they continue to make.
VSAC, UVM, and State College base increases, especially as they're in line with the governor.
Trying to pick
That's all
one.
sort of non-controversial, but it's the other asks that are
We want to
challenging.
rank the other half. The VSAC won the Freedom and Unity Scholarship is really a Vermont State College thing too. I mean, that's
Yes.
so For
There-
me, that is a high priority to increase college access to Vermonters. I mean, those are gonna be probably a lot of first generation.
So I'm going to strongly support this. And I'm gonna speak really quickly because Chris and I have to leave at 12, so we're gonna call it there. But here's why. So we're gonna have to decide about the affordability of the education fund. Then the education fund is $4 million, I think, for early college. That's paid for by property tax dollars within the education fund. Early college is a nice thing. Can we afford it? Early college is also a pretty important revenue source for the state college system, which, is not to be discounted. The question is should that support, for the state college system that will come out of the education
Yeah.
or the general fund? To me, I would much rather see this, which has to be decided in the general fund every year, whether it's a values judgment as to whether we do it, as to supplant early college. It also would really hit the people for whom early college was designed. So that's sort of my big picture support of that,
Specifically, the freedom and unity.
specifically the freedom and unity.
Strongly say.
I do too.
Yeah, okay, well, thank you all.
Yeah, I'm not sure about everyone else, but I'm there.
Sorry, the wheels were still turning in my head.
Well, we're gonna have further testimony and discussion about the early college piece on Thursday. There are a lot of pieces about, people say it shouldn't be in the ed fund, it shouldn't be in the ed fund. There's a few that are probably easier for us to look at more closely, like that is straight out of the flexible pathways program, like it's not as, universal meals, that's not really in our purview anymore. So when we talk about like sort of taking things out of the ed fund, early college is one of the things that has come up again and again as a.
Shall we just say, boy, if you can find the money, we strongly support Vermont Teacher Forgivable Loan Program.
Absolutely.
I mean, it
Yeah.
seems like at whatever, even if it was half that, it
Yeah.
was 2.5, that,
Whatever we can.
anything will get used up.
Yes,
So,
demand is high, need is high. And Rob, whatever you can work in about sort of the relationship that's been built up with the higher ed is.
Yep. And so have we have we come to any decision about sort of the one-time gifts for the technology and the cancer center?
UVM?
We're going to defer
Okay, right. I'm sorry. Right, I wrote that
to
down.
other
Okay,
committees of jurisdiction.
got it.
It does feel like a good time to be funding cancer research.
Yep. Yeah, and we can say that too. In a couple words.
Of course, all these ones that talk about drawing down federal dollars.
Yeah.
I know.
Well,
I know.
yeah, assuming
Well, and it's not like the kids, I don't know that it's federal dollars, it's just other
Right, that's right.
Other
More
monies,
stable money.
private monies, and matching funds. from
Right,
other
these are the
places,
matching funds.
Not necessarily federal.
Right, so again, state colleges, UVM baselines, we'll just put those in a general ring with them. AOE will set aside for the moment.
Yep.
The Heart Association, money should really be attached to the bill that it wants to be part of. Governor's Institute, 3% bump. Private school, defer to the other committee. Advanced Vermont. So, where do you want to put Advanced Vermont in the lineup of everything else? That's to think about. And same for the 182,000, which is a pretty small number.
Are we referring that to food resiliency also?
I think we can
With
say
our-
we support it.
If they have the
but-
capacity.
And we understand that the AOE is ready to
Yeah.
administer. All right, we're gonna stop there, just because Chris and I have to go and do the weekly, or every other week, the speaker does a podcast.